Hey, I think we're live. All right, let me try to get my hair under control. It won't stay that way for long. Sometimes I feel like I should just chop it all off. When I was in my mid 20s, I had this phase where I had like pixie cut. It's like really short, and believe it or not, my hair was curly. It was actually pretty cute. Yeah, I don't straighten my hair or anything. It's just naturally flat at this point. Anyways, I digressed. Hey, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. Um, all right. So, what are we talking about today? Oh, yeah. We're talking about the power of permission. So, receiving is essentially, I feel like I'm a little far from my desk here. Let's see how that is. Yeah, I suppose that works. So, receiving is essentially the end of resistance. It's the art and the practice of living from non-resistance, of living from peace and absolute permission. So today, and I think this is a really, really powerful topic. I'm going to give you kind of the philosophy at first, as I always do. Then I'm going to dive in deeper into what permission actually does and how to meet yourself from a place of permission. And even if you have to like come back to the second part, please do, because I'm really going to show you how permission is the gateway to your future self. Permission is the gateway to a version of you who is already whole, already worthy, already wealthy. And permission is essentially the pathway to living and operating in your life, in your business, in your finances from expansion. Which, when we do that, that's when everything opens. So, I'm going to share with you how to shift from kind of force and push and pull into flow, into infinite possibilities through this practice of permission. When you give permission to what is, you naturally expand into what is possible, what could be. Permission is essentially kind of the complete releasing of resistance, and it is the activation of easeful receivership and the activation of sovereignty. You see, I have found in my own personal experience, but also in working with hundreds of clients at this point, that growth, authenticity, visibility, stepping into your authority and your power, and activating your money flow always comes down to how contracted or how relaxed and expanded your nervous system and your body are. And that is what essentially determines both your level of safety, how safe you feel being you, how safe you feel being here, how safe you feel being big, and your capacity to create and receive. So the level of safety, capacity, and expansion in your nervous system, the level of aliveness and spaciousness in your body defines your identity, and it defines how much you get to receive and create in any specific moment in time. And it also defines to some degree how you show up and which version of you, which part of you is leading the show. A little hair in my mouth. Okay. So for me, permission is the first and one of the most powerful tools for coming out of that sense of contraction and for restoring safety and trust and re-anchoring yourself back into relaxation and expansion. It's both the most powerful pathway to releasing that that innate resistance that we tend to have just from being human and from living in this world where things are inconsistent and you can get hit in the face at any moment. It's also a really powerful pathway to embodying and becoming that sovereign version of you. So that's what we're going to do today. That's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you how to re-anchor into the version of you who always has the clarity, the courage that you need to move forward, and always has the capacity that you need to create, to receive, to hold the results you want, the outcomes you want, with a lot more ease and peace. Before I do that, I don't think I introduced myself. No, I didn't. So I'm going to do it now. For those of you who are new to me, welcome. Hi, I'm Elsa. I'm a total spiritual nerd. I'm a bookworm. I'm a nature and animal lover. When I'm not working with clients or doing these trainings, you're going to usually find me either in nature, playing with my dogs, or reading, or a combination of the three. Professionally, for the last 20 years or so, I've worked as a psychotherapist, an expansion expert, a strategist. I marry kind of neurology, brain work, nervous system expansion with identity work, and also with strategy, with like tangible things we can do in the world and in our business to help leaders and business owners kind of tame the chaos, both the internal chaos, the external chaos, and move past any kind of barriers that have been keeping them small, keeping them oppressed, and keeping their income capped. So if you want to experience this deep expansion work for yourself, you can check the description. There is a way to book a one-off deep dive Wired for Wealth intensive at a significant discount in there for the new year. And there's also, if you're new to me, a way to access a free mini course that I put together that has a training and a few practices in there. Anyways, I look forward to working with you at some point so that you can have a completely new access to safety, to capacity, and to sovereignty. So let's get started. Essentially, happy money, or supportive money, I like to call it sometimes, and receiving from overflow requires allowing energy. It requires that we move away from pressure, that we move away from force and pushing, and that we step into an embodied sense of flow, of peace, and possibilities. And that we start to essentially move through life from that flow, from that sense of peace, from that relaxation, that possibility. And permission is always the first step to doing that. And it is the fastest way out of that contraction, out of scarcity, into that expansion and that sovereignty. So here's a fundamental truth of life that kind of explains why permission is so powerful. Everything within our experience, everything in the universe wants to be given full permission to exist. It wants the right to exist as it is. Only then can this part of life, find peace, transmute into its highest version, and only then can it offer us the gift that is held within it. So let me say that again in a more specific way to you. Everything within your experience, your internal experience, your external experience, wants the right and the full permission to exist exactly as it is. When you provide that permission, then resistance melts away, the flow is restored. And when you provide that permission to that thing that's happening, either inside you or externally from you, you're going to be able to find true peace. And that part of you, that thing that's happening, is able to find true peace and freedom. When that happens, you start to discover gifts that were held hidden within the thing that you thought was in your way. So permission for me is about validating the absolute right for everything and anything within and without to exist exactly as it is. And it's about coming into right relationship with it to such a degree that that thing, whether it's inside us or outside of us, start to feel safe. We feel safe with it and it feels safe with us. And when that safety happens, when that resistance melts away, then there's usually a magic that happens. There's usually guidance, clarity, a next level of becoming that is literally ingrained in it. That's why I love to say, when things don't seem to be working for you, don't worry, they're working on you. It's always working. You are always being given what you need internally and externally for your own becoming, for your own, that you need for your own expansion. So everything in the universe, everything within ourselves wants the right to exist exactly as it is. This is why whatever we resist not only persists, but haunts us and holds us back because it wants to be met. It wants to be validated. It wants to be allowed. And dare I say, it wants to be loved. And in doing that, in the being met, in the being validated, in the being allowed, and maybe even loved, it becomes freed. It becomes liberated. And then it becomes freed and liberated to share its gift with us and to actually be a partner to be used in our journey towards expansion or in our journey within expansion. So I want to tell you, just to make it more tangible, I want to tell you a brief story of one of my old clients. Her name's Julie. And Julie came to see me. When she came to see me, she had been stuck for, I feel like, years into like a pattern of seesaw, feast or famine. So, months where she made money, months where she made no money, months or periods where everything was growing, and then periods where everything seemed to be stalling or collapsing. And she was literally exhausted. She felt unsafe in her business, like she never knew what was going to come. And when she came to me originally, she came to me really to work on her anxiety, her sense of burnout. She was having insomnia. So she was wanting to do a lot of nervous system work around restoring safety and being able to feel some degree of peace in her life and in her business. She also wanted like a simpler, more aligned way to create like steady, reliable, consistent money in her business. She was exhausted by the ups and downs. So throughout our work together, of course, we ended up shifting her business model. We changed her offer completely. We created a really reliable, simple, sustainable model so that she could bring between 1 and 3 clients, new clients every single month, and she could start to feel safe and supported within her business. And that's still going on at this point. I still work with her, and it's been a couple years at this point, and this is still happening. But before we could work on strategy, really, we had to work on healing the resentment, the shame, the overwhelm, the fear, the resistance that she had both towards herself and towards her life and her business. Because without first meeting these things, nothing was working. She would continuously sabotage her progress and her results. She wasn't able to get out of exhaustion. She wasn't able to sleep well through the night. So that was the first step. She had to learn to give herself permission to be where she was at, both internally in terms of how she was feeling, but also so permission to feel all the feels, and also permission to be frustrated, to be where she was at in her career, even though she thought she would be a lot further along at that point, by that point. So part of healing and releasing the shame, the fear, the trauma in some way that was held in her body from all these ups and downs, she had to not only give her permission to herself, but she had to give permission for her reality be what it was, for her own self-judgment. Before she could repair and restore that flow, she essentially had to stop being at war with herself and with her current circumstance and with her business as it stood, as it was. Essentially, before she could really step into possibilities, she had to stop being at war with the present. And permission is the gateway to doing that. Permission is the end of war. The war within, the war without. She had to give herself permission to slow down. She had to give herself permission to feel deeply and to be with what was happening for her. She had to give herself permission to root into safety and to essentially stop moving from scarcity and start moving from safety. And in the end, she had to give herself permission to do it her way rather than following all the shoulds. Essentially, a lot of permission had to be given so that she could stop operating and producing from lack, from this weird proving energy, and from this sense of armoring and resistance and resentment. There was a lot of resentment for all the money she had invested, all the mentors she had worked with, all the clients who, had not paid what they were supposed to, or the people who had not bought from her. We had to just shed all of that. And it was only after her nervous system was regulated, after she was able to re-anchor her body, her identity in what I call that unwavering, inexhaustible ground of safety, that she could start to expand her capacity for more, that she could start to feel really safe being herself, really safe being creative, really safe asking for what she wanted. But it took permission for her to literally have the clarity she needed to refine her current business and to design a new path forward that was more aligned, that essentially felt good to her and was able to provide her exciting money, but also that reliable, steady, consistent money that is really nourishing to our nervous system. And so many of us who are in business are just like Julie, in an effort to feel safe and to protect ourselves. Most of us have learned to move through life from armoring. We're shut down and we're always in the process of resisting what we don't like. We react to our fear, to our doubt, to our disappointment by freezing or by getting really busy and moving, trying to change things. But essentially, both of those responses, whether you're numbing out and you're shutting down, or whether you are continuously going, moving, pushing, trying new things, both of those responses are essentially an abandonment and a rejection of yourself and of your reality. And they're both coming from a place of scarcity and resistance. And like I like to say, you cannot create expansion from contraction. You cannot create abundance from lack. So the first step to shifting things is always to stop rejecting and abandoning ourselves or our life, our business as it is. Because resistance is really an automatic conditioned response. We've been taught how to move that way through life in an effort to stay guarded and protected. The problem is that it actually blocks the flow, both of our inner receiving and our outer receiving. The process of receiving more than enough with ease and joy. And when I say receiving, I don't mean just money or clients or love or support. I mean even receiving our own knowing, receiving our own clarity, receiving our own sense of certainty and confidence. So for us to receive, to reestablish that flow, it requires that we release that resistance, that we release that armoring, and that we give permission to everything within and without that seems to be in our way. That is always the first step. And when you do that, not only do you shift out of contraction and resistance and start to move into relaxation, expansion, and a receiving state, but you actually start to shift your identity, and everything that seemed to be in your way actually becomes your way. It becomes the pathway to expansion. So now I'm going to take you down a little bit of the rabbit hole of the power of permission and teach you how to do that for yourself. The moment that you give yourself and your life as it is permission, two things actually happen. The first thing that happens is that something inside you starts to automatically relax because you're no longer at war with yourself. When you say to yourself, hey, it's okay. It's okay that things are hard right now. It's okay to feel overwhelmed right now. The moment that you do that, you are no longer at war with yourself or with your life. The part of you, the moment that you do that, that you give permission, the part of you that feels hurt, that feels anxious, that feels unclear, that feels frustrated, overwhelmed, whatever, the moment you do that, that part feels seen, they feel validated, they feel held, they feel less alone. The part of you inside you that is struggling feels seen, feels supported, feels less alone in the muck, in the shit. So we give permission to what is so that something in us can start to relax and reopen, and we can start to expand into what could be. The second thing that happens when you give permission is that the moment you turn towards yourself to give that part of you that's struggling permission, you are no longer the version of you who is drained, who is overwhelmed, who is anxious, who's stuck, who's angry, who's disheartened, whatever. The moment you turn towards yourself, the moment you notice you're in contraction, the moment you notice you're in resistance, something in you is at war, either with the world or with yourself. Something is at war, and you turn towards that part of you that is at war. And you say to that part of you that is struggling, hey, it's okay to feel really stuck right now. It's okay to hate this. It's okay to feel really disappointed with this outcome. It's okay to feel lost and not know what to do next. The moment you do that, the moment you give yourself permission to feel what you feel, to be where you're at, for life to be the way it is, and for you to have your reaction to it, you have, unbeknownst to you, slipped out of that contraction, slipped out of the self, the part of you who is contraction, and you have slipped into an expanded version of you, something in you that is not struggling. You have slipped out of wounding back into wholeness. Because the moment you turn towards yourself and you say, I feel you, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel really sad about this. It's okay to want to give it all up and to want to just burn it down. It's okay to feel frustrated that you're up at 3 a.m. again. The moment you give yourself permission, you have become the one who is giving permission rather than the one who is needing the permission. You have become the one who is out of it and is able to notice and to give permission rather than being the one who is in the resistance, who is in the struggle, who is in the muck. And the one who is giving permission, the version of you who is turning towards yourself, turning towards that part that is wounded and struggling, and who's saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to be exhausted. That one, that version of you does not feel overwhelmed. That version of you is not afraid. That version of you is not drained or disheartened. That version of you, the one who's giving permission, is actually already anchored in peace. They're already anchored in freedom. They're already anchored in infinite possibilities. That version of you is living in and from trust, in and from safety, in and from capacity and sovereignty. And that version of you is always here. But for most of us, the way our brain is wired, the way our nervous system is wired, it's always the part of us that is most contracted who takes the lead. And our identity merges with that part. We feel like we are it. Kind of like when you stub your toe. That's the only thing that fucking exists in your experience. The fact that it's only a very small part of your body doesn't matter. Like our whole wiring, our neurocircuitry is designed to focus on what's most broken, what's most problematic, what's most dangerous to your survival. And it does that to the degree that it literally eliminates from your awareness everything else. So you become problem focused instead of becoming or being possibility focused. You see, when you're in resistance, when you're in turmoil, there's always two versions of you. There's the one who's stressed, who's wounded, who's struggling, who's overwhelmed. And then there is also a version of you who is unaffected, already free, already whole, already worthy, already wealthy, already anchored in what's possible and in your potential. But you simply don't have access to that one. But the moment that you turn towards yourself and you say, hey, I feel you and it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling this. It's okay that you're thinking that. It's okay that this is happening and you fucking hate it. The moment that you turn towards yourself and you give yourself permission, it's not the struggling part that's giving the struggling part permission. It's something bigger. It's that version of you who itself is not struggling, who itself feels already secure, who itself has the capacity to support a wounded, contracted self within you. And I know this feels philosophical, but when you do it, like next time you're struggling in your life with something, realize, become aware that you're struggling, take a pause, identify what you're feeling or what your mind is saying about whatever's going on, and literally find it in your body, figure out where you feel it the most, maybe your heart, maybe your throat, maybe your solar plexus. Put a hand there, maybe do a little tapping, like you're telling this part, hey, I'm right here. And then just say, it's okay that this shit's happening and we're fucking hating it. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to feel really frustrated. It's okay to feel really triggered by this. And ask yourself, is the one who's saying it's okay, is that one triggered? Is that one overwhelmed? Is that one in absolute complete resistance and hating every minute of its life? And you realize that the moment you ask yourself that, no, the one who is giving permission is free, is whole, is sovereign, is anchored in possibilities naturally. The moment you do that, you have literally become your most expanded sovereign self. And at that point, you start to realize that all along, the wrong parts of you have been running the show. That all along, throughout your life, throughout growing your business, the wrong parts of you have been at the wheel. That you've been like a wounded 4-year-old trying to walk in your mother's high heels or trying to drive your dad's Ferrari. And of course, it hasn't worked well. Of course, it feels hard. Of course, you keep falling on your face or crashing because the wrong version of you, the wrong part of you, is actually in the driver's seat. The wrong part of you is making the decisions, making the choices. The wrong part of you is showing up in your marketing. So permission is actually one of the most powerful, especially in the way I just described to you, this turning towards yourself, is actually one of the most powerful expansion hack. It allows you to slip out really quickly out of contraction, out of being bound by struggle, into relaxation and expansion. And it allows you to seamlessly and easily shift where your identity is anchored, to shift out of smallness into sovereignty, to shift out of contraction into liberation, to shift out of fear into trust. And it allows you to anchor yourself and to start to really root who you are into that upgraded, elevated version of you. It then starts to allow you to view your life, to view your business, to have a perspective that is elevated, and to make decisions, to take action, to show up from a much bigger you. So the process here is, first you become aware that you're in contraction, that you're in resistance, that you're armored, that you're closed off, that you're numb, that you're operating in your life and making decision from contraction. Then you release resistance and you anchor yourself and your body into the receiving state through the permission, so that you can start to, over time, make expansion the normal, the natural, the familiar mode of operation. You literally shift your programming. And then you become the most peaceful and powerful force in your life and business. You become unstoppable. And you realize at that point that the flow is finally restored, both your internal flow and the external flow of creating and receiving. So this is my training today. I hope it supported you. If it was insightful, if you got something from it, please share it. If you're on Facebook, tag a friend. If you're on YouTube, send a link to a friend, a colleague. Essentially, I would love to have you help me bring this perspective, bring this way of working with the nervous system as an ally and this expansion work essentially to more people, because God knows the world needs it right now. And of course, I am deeply, deeply grateful for your presence, for your time, for your energy, and for your support if that feels aligned with you. So this is today. And of course, if you are ready to expand out of contraction, if you want to repair, to repattern, to reprogram your nervous system, your body, your identity for that relaxation, that expansion, so that you can succeed massively, like in a way that really delights you and nourishes all of you, from your heart and your body all the way to your money, to your bank account, then I would love to work with you. In the work that I do with clients, I essentially marry neurology and neurocircuitry, nervous system work, with identity and with strategy to shift your current set point and to calibrate your body and your business for the big expansion that you know is possible for you. I help you get ready, both like nervous system wise and also identity wise, to welcome that big expansion, to welcome a shit ton more visibility, clients, money, authenticity, without sacrifice, without overwhelm, without self-sabotage, without that pressure and that push that so many of us are conditioned to think is necessary in growth. When you work with me, you can expect a few things. You can expect to tame the chaos and to become still and spacious through any storm, both internal storms and external storms. You can essentially, you're going to start to really embody the fact that you are the most peaceful and powerful force in your life and business. You can expect to unlock yourself. My dog is like snoring super loudly. You can expect to unlock yourself and to activate what I call the boundless body, so that you're able to easily move through invisible barriers that are kind of keeping you small, keeping you repressed, keeping your income capped. You can expect to find an ease and a clarity in taking aligned action and creating consistent and reliable results. And you can expect to start creating higher revenue relaxed. You can expect to start to make and hold more from this deep sense of safety, from a sense of increased capacity, and from calm confidence. So if that sounds like a win, then you can get started and essentially experience this work for yourself with a 90-minute Wired for Wealth intensive that is offered to you if you're new to this work at a significant saving. During this intensive, we essentially explore and start to pull out the unique wounds that have been holding you back. And then I literally take you through one of my proprietary process to move you out of that sense of contraction into relaxation and expansion. You will walk away with a process that you can use for the rest of your life. And then if we decide to do some more work together based on how you thrive and what you need and your budget, I will give you a couple options to keep working together. So if you go into the description of this video, you're going to see the link to kind of get all the details and book this Wired for Wealth. It will be for the beginning of the new year. And if you're not quite ready for that, that's okay. There is also a link to hop on my free mini course, which has kind of a training, and it has 3 or 4 practices included in there as well to give you a taste and to get you started with this process. All right. I am wishing you a wonderful rest of your week and sending you love. And next week, I will come to you with a training that will literally follow from this one and really talk about what I call providing the missing experience. So once you're done being at war, once you've provided permission and you've started to really kind of re-anchor your identity in expansion, then what you can do is you can start to provide what I call the missing experience to the parts of you that are contracted, that are struggling, that are afraid, so that they will really start to open and to relax, and they will start to become absolute partners and allies on your journey to wealth, on your journey to growth, on your journey to having a tremendous impact in the world and on your own life. All right, that's what I have. Mwah.